Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, it's that time for an important consumer update, but first, let's take a look at the economic health of the nation and the state. As they say, let's get to it.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that in terms of national and state subjects, is there anything more important in terms of policy than what is going to happen to the economy? There's a big debate going on about whether we're going to slip into a recession or not. And importantly, what can we do about creating jobs, entrepreneurship? The jobs are, in a sense, created, as I think most of you know, by small businesses. They're the engine of economic growth in our country and in our state. I couldn't have two better guests to chat about it. Let me start by introducing Gene Barr. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. And sitting next to him is Dr. Kelly Hunt. She's the director of the Pittsburgh District Office of the Small Business Administration. You got to get all those titles out for all of us, right? All right, Gene, we're going to focus on our state, but There's this big debate that that's something that you do for a living, the health of the economy of the country. You get some kind of mixed signals, but overall the growth has been pretty good.
Well, first, we've done a survey of our members. Our members are still feeling pretty optimistic. I think they like what's happening, particularly at the federal level where we've cut some regulations. That's all positive. There are some signs that show potentially some slippage, but it's interesting. Earlier this year, I was at a conference and a number of CEOs spoke, some CEOs of very large corporations, and it's funny, they were still pretty bullish, and some of them made some interesting comments, like as if we keep trying to talk ourselves into a recession. It's almost like we've been doing so well for so long here after the recovery from the last recession. So there's potentially some things that indicate, some economic indicators, but I will tell you that our folks are still pretty bullish on this. I mean, the trade issues are a big problem for us. The tariffs are a problem, and that's causing some drag. And workforce, which we've been on here before talking about workforce issues. That continues to be the number one issue. Finding people to fill the jobs that are available continues to be the number one concern of many people.
Kelly, what's your sense about this?
That is what we hear from small businesses. We've been having a lot of roundtables across Pennsylvania talking to small business owners about what concerns they're facing. And undoubtedly, the number one issue that comes up is the inability to hire a skilled workforce. You know, CDL drivers and welders and the trades, people just can't find them in, and that's why the workforce development is so important.
So the point is there are jobs available. The question is, can employers find potential employees that have the skills, that have the vocational, whatever requirement the job needs, correct?
Right, and it's they can find them, but then can the small businesses pay the salaries that they're going to need to be able to get these employees, because they're competing now with a lot of other fields that are active in our state, you know, in the gas and oil industry, that are taking a lot of the drivers and the people that are doing these skills, and they're going to need to pay up to get those employees back.
And that competition for salary is a big deal. It certainly is. But at the same time, I talk to people who say, hey, I'm in Philly and I've got a job that pays $15 an hour, and I can't find people to take it, particularly maybe it's an overnight shift, et cetera. Right. And so, and in many cases, it isn't the skills for the job. Some of it is the ability to show up on time, to show up at all, to lift your nose out of a phone, to be able to interact with people, interact with customers. I've had a lot of our members say, hey, I'll teach them what they need on the job. I just need the stuff that gets them to the door and allows them to learn what they need to learn.
Well, one of the critical factors, I think, in employment has to do with the degree to which we have an ongoing spirit as well as a practice of entrepreneurship. I mean, that's who, entrepreneurs create the dynamic that ultimately creates the jobs. Am I wrong or right about that?
No, that is right. And, and it goes back to even into the school systems. Are we teaching kids to be entrepreneurial, to be risk takers, to be proactive, to be innovative in how they're, going about looking for a job? Even if you work for another employer, you can have that entrepreneurial spirit. And so we really need to make sure that we're encouraging that, and in the workplace. That's the kind of workers we want to have work for for us.
Yeah.
People that can solve problems.
Gene, you interact routinely with entrepreneurs.
Sure, absolutely. Completely agree with that. And, you know, it's unfortunate. We have some folks in the political world who, unfortunately, in many cases will denigrate. You know, you heard the old comment, well, you didn't build that. We had one of the current presidential candidates make a very similar statement. And that's unfortunate, because people put themselves, their families, their resources on the line. I mean, I've talked to people in the business community who have literally taken their personal credit card out of their wallet and put it on the table to pay for the payroll for that week to make it. And it's a stretch. You know, as Kelly said, this is absolutely crucial for the economic health of our nation, for the growth, to be able to have people bring their dreams to the table and be able to actualize those. Here in PA, most jobs are small businesses, as is the case nationwide. We have over a million small businesses in Pennsylvania.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the engines of economic growth, small business, and whatever consumer trends are out there, and we'll do that after the break.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back to the program. We're talking about, you know, the job situation, employment, what factors are going to play a role. And now it's time to talk about the engines of economic growth. And our panelists will tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. But is small business the driver of our economy? Take it, Ken.
Well, in Pennsylvania, definitely. Like we had mentioned earlier, there are about 1.1 million small businesses in Pennsylvania. So that's over 99% of all businesses in Pennsylvania are small.
Wow.
So it makes a huge difference in the state, and especially for employment.
Well,
most people that are employed work for a small business.
Are the resources available? I mean, is it something that the government can be helpful with or harmful, depending on the situation?
Well, I mean, you know, when we say harmful, you know, regulations have been a big issue, but those are really, you know, there's a lot of work being done in D.C. to make sure that those regulations are being reduced for small businesses. But there are a lot of resources. You know, the U.S. Small Business Administration is there in every step of a life cycle, from an entrepreneur who has a business idea to an existing small business that wants to grow, that wants to do business with the government, that maybe wants to export products overseas. We have programs and initiatives in place to help them all the way through that ecosystem.
Yeah, Gene, you deal with lots of folks who are your members and folks who aren't your members on a regular basis with small business. What's the sense?
We do, and I'd argue it's a multifaceted question, because what it comes down to, yes, most businesses are small businesses. SBA is absolutely critical in getting them the resources, the background, the loans, et cetera. These are all important. But what's oftentimes necessary is, and classic example of what's going on out in the Butler area with the Shell facility, $5-6 billion in the ground. What's happening is you get that infusion of cash from a major corporation. What will happen, we hope will happen, will be numerous small businesses that come up and pop up around.
To serve the big business.
To take the raw material to make products, to provide services, the restaurants, everything that will grow the small businesses around there. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania does not rank well in terms of how we treat small business. And in fact, Pennsylvania came up pretty poor, particularly for women entrepreneurs in both Philly and Pittsburgh. And I'd argue some of that has to do with the fact that we have a corporate net income tax rate of 9.99. So a lot of times that major infusion of investment that will help grow small business around that major investment doesn't happen as much as we'd like. So that's why I say it's a multifaceted question.
Good point.
We need both. We need the infusion of the major investment. We need small businesses and people trying to live out their dreams and take on their dream job and their dream career. And we've got to make sure that government in certain cases can assist, but a lot of times it's get out of the way and create that environment where business can start and flourish.
All right, let's talk about another important subject, and that is what are the relevant consumer trends that folks out there, they're probably aware of them because you all are leading the way when it comes to consumer trends. Just reel off a couple.
Well, you know, on our side, I'm from the western side of the state of Pennsylvania, and like you had mentioned, the cracker shell plant in Butler County is very important in that area. I'm sorry, in Beaver County is very important in that area. And, you know, we're anticipating a lot of businesses to come alongside that. We're hoping that the plastic industries will move some of their operations to that area. And with that will come more jobs, and we'll be able to see more small businesses to come along in the even service industries and things that will come up along that area. You know,
are the
so
consumer trends, in your opinion, more favorable now towards entrepreneurship and small business overall in general, or is it more of are there problems?
I think you're seeing new ones pop up, and which bring other issues with them. For example, what's going on with Uber and Lyft these days, and the gig economy, and now people utilizing that for food deliveries. It's forcing restaurants to change how they do things. You're seeing changes in how grocery stores work.
Point.
So there's so much change that's
coming in. And you have Amazon out there and other places where retail businesses are in some cases struggling. Am I right or wrong about that?
Yeah, they are. It's forcing them in many cases to adapt, much as if you go back and remember when, you know, the Walmarts came in and the Home Depots and Lowe's, small business had to adjust to that, and they had to bring their strengths to the table, and argue the same is going to have to happen with the new gig economy.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, I can't drive through any time and not find packages at the front door.
Absolutely.
You know? I mean, multiple boxes and packages, right?
Right, and we see a lot too with robotics. A lot of robotics companies. We have some of the greatest higher educational institutions in our state, and we're seeing a lot of the people that are coming out of those that are doing startups that are high tech. You know, the climate is really changing. There's a lot of opportunity. You know, still a lot of ways to go, but there's a lot going on.
So overall, before I let you go, health of the general health of the economy in Pennsylvania, up uneven?
Still
up,
pretty
down?
good. I mean, obviously we're tied significantly to the national economy.
Sure,
and, you know, we've been on here many times talking about how unfortunately we don't dip as far as many other states, but we also don't come back as much. So we have some work to do here in PA, but just as every other state is, we're tied in many cases to the national economy.
All right, thanks. We expect you'll come back and keep us updated. All right, it's time for an important consumer update. How do you increase savings? What all that means? Talking about the economy, what do we do about savings? We'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
All right, we're back for our important consumer update as we do monthly. Joining me to talk about that is Patrick Conway. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association, and joining me is Anna May Nauss. She's the CEO of AmeriChoice Credit Union. All right, I want to start with you, Patrick. Of all the things that we talk about when we deal with consumer issues, investments, savings, it seems to me that the urgency ought to be right from the start when you get your first job to start saving.
Absolutely.
For, not just should you have an emergency, but the R word. It's called retirement. Go ahead, take it.
That's right. You know, too often young folks don't think ahead. They're not planning for retirement. You know, we encourage people in our credit unions dealing with their members, you know, each and every day. Establish a plan. Put a little bit away, you know, each month, each paycheck. Plan ahead and save, you know, and save for a rainy day. Plan ahead. And then really stick with that plan.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I think it's important for them to set a goal, decide what it is. Of course, as Pat mentioned, an emergency day fund is very important, very critical. You never know when something's going to come up and you need those extra funds. But along with that, with retirement, even if you can start small, just a small percentage, and each year when it's time at annual salary increases, bump that percentage just a few dollars, and it all adds up over time.
And saving rates are pretty important, and you have supplied some data about those savings rates. But if the percentages blah blah that you get on your saving goes up, it seems like that would be a bigger incentive to save because you're making more money off the money you're putting away. Or am I on Mars?
No, I think you're right. You know, and I think the more, you know, look, one of the great things about saving is even as a young adult, you know, when you see it to start accumulating, it's an incentive. You know, it really encourages you to do more of that. So,
and the compounding over time.
That's a great point. But you also have some tips you have here, and then I'll let you comment on set a goal, save automatically, accumulate savings from reward programs, take advantage of your pay cycle. These all seem to be interrelated. Yes, no?
Yes.
So
yes.
You talk to your folks about that when they come in?
Right. As I said previously about setting a goal, you know, whether it's you want to go on that vacation, whether it's retirement, stay focused on that and stay committed to it. Along with that is saving automatically by having those dollars taken out of your paycheck right away that you don't even see them. To spend them is a good tool and a good practice to get into to have that money accumulate and save. You know, if you're participating in a rewards program, if you benefit from a rewards, try to save some of that money and put it aside. Again, every little bit adds up over time.
Yeah. The other thing is you have to pick a place to put your money.
Right.
I mean,
right, and you know, work with your community bank or your credit union, your financial, your trusted financial advisor. Our credit unions, you know, are working closely with their members to be their financial partner. You know, put your money in savings, put it in, you know, vehicles that are going to earn greater interest rates. So you do see that, you do get encouraged by the accumulation of your savings and manage debt. You know, that's the other.
Yeah, you know, I want to get into that in a little greater detail in the next segment. But do you have folks who come in and sit down and say, well, what do I do? What steps should I take in order to make sure that I'm saving properly?
Well, one thing that we really focus on at AmeriChoice is financial literacy. We try to get out into the schools and to organizations, groups, and talk about budgeting, saving money, how to make sure that you're not spending more than what you're earning or bringing into the household. Trying to kind of get ahead of that before, as Pat mentioned, with debt, before they get too far into debt that it becomes a bigger struggle to get their financial ship righted.
All right, we're going to run to a break. I'm going to talk about household credit cards, that you know, the debt continues to rise, and also we have October's International Credit Union Month. We'll get to those subjects after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
All right, how to manage debt, that's an important subject, but it's also International Credit Union Month. What's that all about? Help us understand that.
Sure, Terry. Well, you know, International Credit Union Month, in fact, today is International Credit Union Day, is an international celebration of credit unions. They're not-for-profit financial cooperatives that are owned by their members. And what would be profits for banks, for example, are given back to the, you know, to the members of the credit unions. in the form of better fees and better
services.
and improved services. So it's really a month to really celebrate what credit unions are doing in the community across the world.
Okay.
And credit union philosophy of people helping people, kind of going back to what we were talking about with the savings and encouraging working with our members to put them in a better financial position.
All right. Well, look. All right, let's go to this house. I'll stick with you. Household credit debt. I'm sure you get people that come in to see you regularly that are swimming in debt, particularly credit card debt. That's really...
It's a vicious cycle where the credit cards are readily available. Our members start to use them. They make the minimum payment, and it just continues to grow, not reducing that principal balance on the credit card. Credit cards are good in the fact if you use them and manage them, but credit card debt is significantly increasing, and currently.
Well, $38 billion in credit card debt in the second quarter of 2019, and that's the most since the mid-1980s.
Yes.
Right.
And it looks like it's growing. And the debt includes, as you point out, mortgages, student loans, auto loans. I mean, the average debt is now $16,000, right?
Right. And so, again, it's important for families, businesses, consumers, individuals to manage debt. The upside is, people are spending because they have confidence in the economy. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if you manage debt and you utilize it, it can be a great resource for you. So the good thing is the economy's feeling good, but you do have to have a plan for managing debt.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go through. You talked about a plan. Give us a couple of the tips. What should people do to manage their debt?
One thing I think everyone should be aware of is having a budget, making sure that you know what you're going to spend on entertainment, what you're going to spend on groceries, and stay committed to that budget. And one of the most important parts of the budget should also be to pay yourself in the form of the savings account, again, preparing for that rainy day. But the important thing is with the budget, and there's many tools out there you can use to help to manage that you kind of stick to that budget so that you are not spending more than the income that's coming into your household. Another one would be if you are with credit card debt, try to look at the whole picture. Choose the credit card that has maybe the highest interest rate and really focus on paying that principal down and making the minimum payment on your other credit cards. But then once that's paid off, move on to the next credit card to reduce that credit card debt.
But you also have to have, as you point out, an emergency fund because, look, everybody, all of us have gone through, everything's plodding along and then something comes up that requires, who knows, it could be an auto, car repair, we could go through whatever it is, correct?
Right. We've all heard the story that many Americans can't handle a sudden $400 medical bill, for example. So it's important to have a rainy day fund, even if it's small, just to help you in a time of crisis like that.
Well, we're running out of time, but I tell you what, I'm giving you an assignment. You have to come back. I love these. I'm going to titillate these. The Iowan approach, the snowball method. I mean, there are ways in which you can, keep your debt down. Just a quick word, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. You agree?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Will you put those on the agenda to come back and talk about them?
Yes, we will.
All right,
absolutely,
we'll do
Terry.
That. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.